We'll talk about Man United a bit, and then we'll talk about the best midfields in the Premier League. Just your view on Mason Mount. What type of player Man United getting, right?
Well, certainly energetic. You know, he had his few injuries last year, but you know what he's done for England when he's put that England shirt on. He's been a very important player for Gareth. And, you know, it's one of them situations, sometimes you do need a change. It's a little bit, Chelsea fans, is a good thing for Manchester United. They didn't want to see him go. Certain players, they go, well, yeah, okay, I think he's done enough now, or his time's up at our club. But I think every Chelsea fan was pretty disappointed when he did leave. I don't know what the reasons were, whether the contracts wasn't put on the table, I don't know. But Manchester United getting a very good player. And I look at the midfield from Manchester United. It is ageing a little bit. I mean, Casemiro, Eriksen, that it gives it a little bit more energy in that midfield. So I think it's a great signing.
And he can play anywhere. He can play as a holder. He can make runs as an 8.
Well, I don't like it when they say you're a holding midfielder. As I said before, it's a little bit of common sense sometimes. You might see Casemiro pushed on a little bit in certain parts of the game, and then it's just like I'm feeling for him. You know, it's a very simple game sometimes where people probably overthink it and say, well, he's gone forward, well, what do we do now, sort of thing. But he can play anywhere. He can play off the left if you want it. He's been played off the right. So I think it's a really good addition to the squad. Gives it a little bit more competition in midfield. But they still need quite a few more players as well.
Who do they need? What do you make of what's happening with the goalkeeper?
Well, you need number 9 still, don't you? I know Rashford can play through the middle, but I like him off that left-hand side at times. So number 9, I know Martial, is he still there? I think he's still there
at the moment.
But you need a real... That's where Harry Kane... There was linked to Harry Kane. That would have been perfect for Manchester United. Goalkeeper.
Yeah, what do you make of how they dealt with David De Gea?
It's a bit of a strange one because I think the deal would have been on the table, wouldn't it? For less money.
I think it still is.
Is it?
I think it still is.
So it's down to De Gea to say yes. And he probably would have to take a pay cut because I think he's one of the best paid players, isn't he?
Yeah, 375.
Well, he's got to take a big pay cut then for me. But he has made a lot of mistakes. And I talk to you because you're a United fan. He does make quite a few. So if you can't win the league if you haven't got a top class goalkeeper, I don't think.
I agree.
You've got to have a goal scorer. And the other end of the pitch, you've got to have someone who's going to keep you in games at certain periods of time. Alisson was probably one for Liverpool, and now we're winning it. Now you've got Edison. Hopefully Ramsdale can do that for Arsenal going forward. So I always look at that position, goalkeeper. It's very important. Manchester United over the years had Schmeichel and people like that. You know? So, you know, and that's when you was dominating trophies. So
do you think it's goalkeeper number 9 anymore, centre-half maybe?
Yeah, well... It depends on who leaves. I mean, Harry Maguire has been linked with certain clubs, which Manchester United fans, as you might say, might want to see the back of Harry. But I think he's still a squad player. He probably won't play on a regular basis at the moment, so he might want to move on. So I reckon a good centre half as well.
Yeah, okay.
Right down that spine.
What will the aspirations be for Ten Hag and Manchester United this season?
Again, they've got to be pushing. They've got to try and get a lot closer to the likes of Man City and Arsenal even from last season. Now, they've got into that top 4. That gives you the opportunity to attract bigger players, I should imagine. And it is Manchester United, one of the biggest clubs in the world. Now, how do we push on again and try and close the gap? Because it is difficult because Man City ain't going to stand still. They're going to lose a few midfielders, but they've got to believe they can. And it's been interesting to see how they start the season, Manchester United, and develop that season.
You, of course, played in the midfield, so you know how important that part of any team is. Manchester United, I think if everyone's fit, it would be Casemiro, it would be Mason Mount and Bruno Fernandes. Where do you think that rates amongst the other big hitters in the Premier League?
We look at Casemiro, he's been a great signing, isn't he, for United? I know he's got to just calm himself down on the pitch a little bit, but he can't keep getting sent off every week.
No.
Fernandes, we know what he can do. You know, he's one of those sort of players, gets full scores your goals, always wants the ball. I think Eriksen has been a great player, but you need now cover because he ain't going to be able to play every game. He's getting a little bit older. So Mason Mount would be perfect for that midfield area. I don't know about McTominay. There's been talk about he might be moving on, and Fred even might be moving on. So, but it's still a long way from the better midfields like... Well, you go to Man City's. I look at names there you've written down. Rodri, brilliant. You haven't put John Stones in there either. He can move in there. You've got Kovacic, who's a decent player from Chelsea. De Bruyne, we know the link-up play with him and Haaland. I love Bernardo Silva. I know Gundogan was brilliant last year as well. So I think they're still miles ahead of most midfields. Liverpool will be interesting. I'm looking at Liverpool's. Now, Trent Alexander-Arnold is the big player. What will he do next season?
Where would you play him?
I think you've got to make him as a midfielder. I
agree with you.
I really do. With his passing ability and the way he can, keep the ball and make them killer pass when you have to. I think McAllister's a great signing as well for Liverpool. Then you've got so many different connections you can put in there with them. I think they're pretty strong in midfield as well.
When you look at a side like Chelsea, we talked about them earlier on. I think that's one of their weakest areas. Fernandes, Gallagher, Chukwuemeka and Santos are the recognised midfielders. I think they need to bring in at least one or two.
Well, you're looking at Caicedo straight away.
Yeah.
If you can add him to the list there, then it's suddenly sort of a lot stronger. So I think that's my biggest area. And a number 9, like we had a caller on earlier, saying that over the last few years, I was scratching my head when they spent 600 million. They didn't really get a striker.
Nuts.
Amazing. That's the area they needed desperately. But they've got all these different midfielders and bit part players. But you got to highlight where you desperately need a player and go out and find one. It's difficult.
A quick word about Spurs as well. I'm a big fan of James Maddison. I thought that was an absolute steal.
He's a great signing. 40 million, that is an absolute steal. Absolutely brilliant. And whether Harry Kane will look at that and say, well, suddenly I might get a few more chances next year with him as playing behind me. Bentancur was a little bit unlucky last year, central midfield. He was becoming a decent player for Spurs in that midfield. Basuma, not really done it for me, is he? Since he went from Brighton,
he's been injured a few times.
Yeah, he's been injured, but he's not really stepped up as much as the Spurs fans would have liked.
Yeah,
Højbjerg is a very competitive player. Always gives his all in that midfield area, but that's where they was desperate for a ball player in that midfield for last year, and they've got it now, Maddison. The Spurs are okay. Newcastle as well. I look at Newcastle's. Gomeris, we all love Gomeris when he plays. He was one of the players for me last year, Joelinton, to step into that central midfield area. I saw him at a Brentford game and he was on the right-hand side to start, but then they put him in the central area and he controlled the whole game. Absolutely brilliant, So he's a really big player for him. Obviously, their new signing as well. He's been likened to Gattuso, which is anywhere near him.
Hell of a comparison.
So that's going to be interesting to see how he fits into the Premier League. But every single midfield is very competitive. My old club as well. Now, if we've got Declan Rice on there. He hasn't done the deal yet, but hopefully that will get over the line. Partey at the start of the season was absolutely brilliant. Really was. Controlled midfield. Yeah. He went off the ball a little bit towards the end. Jorginho done a great job, but he's not going to be on a regular basis playing. Odegaard was one of the players of the season for me. And Smith Rowe, it's a big opportunity for him this year because he's done well in the under-21s. Will he get enough game time? You've got Havertz in there as well now.
You a fan of Havertz?
I don't think, with what happened at Chelsea, where the managers keep changing, and I think he lost a little bit of interest. He wasn't never a number 9, was he?
No.
And they try to play him up there.
It's a lot of money, though, isn't it?
It is a lot of money, but he could turn his career around because you don't become a bad player overnight. And I think Odegaard could be that sort of player because his career was up, when he was at Real Madrid. Suddenly, Arsenal got him playing really good football again. Havertz might be the same, but I'm hoping he can do well, and he could fit into that Xhaka role. To that right-hand side. But he might have to defend a little bit more than he's used to. Whether he can do that, we'll have to wait and see.
talkSPORT Drive with Andy Goldstein. Monday to Friday afternoon from 4 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.